We are really pleased to introduce our next guest. Yes. Before we do, we're going to sample some of his work and then not only share a conversation with him, but let him share with some local jazz music as well.
That's right. We're going to be talking to Maynard Ferguson.
And we continue that applause here as we introduce Maynard Ferguson. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you.
On this side?
Yeah,
sure, we'll put you right over here in the guest of honors
nice
chair.
to see you.
Good morning.
That's you.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Excellent
Very nice
music.
to be here.
Yeah.
Enjoy that. You've been here since the last time you had a performance here, right?
Well, we played in one of the high schools, and we're doing a lot of the schools. This is sort of the heavy tour for junior high schools we play and high schools, and there's such a great interest in our kind of music right now in the school systems, and music education, such as what we're about to be treated to right here, I think is probably one of my favorite things. The up-leveling of music education in the American school systems has been tremendous.
I don't understand if those young people realize just how great a jazz musician you are. You've been around a long time, and you're just good, very good at what you do. Like I said, a jazz great. You started, however, well, you were born in Canada, correct?
That's right, Montreal, Canada, yes.
And you at one point had your own band.
Yeah, I was a teenage band leader, like a teenage werewolf. Well, in my case, I was a teenage band leader in Montreal, Canada, and I gave up having my own band to come to the United States and play with all the big name bands that I possibly could, and that was the sort of dream. In Montreal High School, I was on the same band with Oscar Peterson, and we sort of grew up together, you might say. And so the jazz was always around me, even though I came from the French Conservatory of Music in Montreal and all those things. Yet jazz is sort of the first love, and of course the movement of jazz. I'm a great believer in change and not staying today committed to unchanged. So you'll hear a lot of contemporary things in my music as well. Yeah.
In addition to being known for the music, and it just occurred to me what it is like to rise to the status that you have in terms of the instrument. If people were to take different instruments and say trumpet and list everyone that came to mind, your name would come to mind. And to have that kind of status in the instrument world must be something of an achievement.
Well, it's a great joy. You can either look at it as a responsibility and all that kind of thing and say, wow, like I gotta, but the truth is that I just love what I do, and music is a very a beautiful spiritual thing, and it's also quite mystic because nobody can really explain why they like that kind of music and don't like that kind of music. The mystery is what makes it so lovely. The fact that you can't really speak about it too much. I would hate to review music.
Mm-hmm. When you started out, I know your brand or style of trumpet playing was labeled different. You were called the screamer and the jazz player. Can you tell us why?
Well, I think probably because for some reason I was able to more or less master the upper register of the horn a lot, and to use it in a musical way rather than to just try and create havoc in the back row of a big band. But they would, but by the time I got into the Barnett band and then into the Stan Kenton
Charlie
band,
Barnett, yeah.
That's when they started actually writing for me. So suddenly what had been called a screaming trumpet in an improvised way also was written for me, so it was a commitment to play it.
And we'd all wait when you were playing a number for that last note. Because you knew it was going to be higher than you can imagine, and your face would swell, your cheeks would swell out, and it would be all that energy poured into one finale.
Well, it is energy, and it's a very joyful thing to do. So I'm having a lot of fun when I do it, you know.
Let's get back a little bit now to the fusion, because so many other jazz artists are fusing jazz with pop. But you've heard this. This is not new, what I'm about to say to you. Critics have said that you're selling yourselves out, that that's not pure, and that you're just doing it for the buck.
Well, I tell you what, it's only in how the artist himself does it. And but the changes that took place in the era of Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, they were frowned on because they didn't play like the guys from the swing era. And the swing guys, the Benny Goodmans, they were frowned on by the Dixielanders as they're not pure because they're not playing whereas the truth is that it's a changing art form, just as all art should be allowed to either stay the same. The greatest thing we can do for any artist is just to allow him to do his or her thing. And if they happen to be into change, let's let them change and see what happens. And if they wish to stay the same and play that same wonderful way, the Basie Band is a great example of that. The Basie Band has an identity. You hear 2 bars of Count Basie's band, and you know it's him. Yeah. And not only that, I love every moment of it. My band is a little harder to identify, they say, until I start playing. And that's because I enjoy this movement, staying contemporary, being today and tomorrow, and still having a respect for the music of the past. Right now, we just won one award as the National Association of Campus Activities, I think it's called, NACA. They represent all the colleges. Well, we won that as the Jazz Entertainment Act of the year, and but at the same time, I've just been nominated for my second, hopefully, a Grammy Award. So we're up for the Grammy now. So
that is quite a perspective, really, because we were talking earlier. You were one of the younger guys at the end of the big band era, so your place in time has put you in a rather unique position.
Well, it has, because the Grammy thing I'm nominated for is Best Rock Instrumental. And so that's sort of a proof of our multi-directional thing, and that's even advice I have for all these young people over here is, hey, just go play any kind of music. All music is just how you play it, so don't get narrow, you guys. You guys just get turned on to marching bands, drum and bugle corps, jazz, of course, man, and rock and roll. Just whatever feels good to you. Just play it and love it, man. And you're just going to keep on getting better, and the better you get, the more fun music is.
Yes.
And never mind winning awards and things like that. Those are all nice ego trips, but to tell you the truth, just the joy of playing music is a great gift.
We're going to hear some of that music in just a moment.
We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back.
We've been trying to peek over the sheet music there and see what the name of the song is, and I think you successfully did that. Well, one of us did.
I think it was is that Jumpin' with Symphony Sid? Or, yeah, that's a great tune. Symphony Sid used to be a great disc jockey in New York City.
Well, let's take a listen to that now. The Monroe High School Jazz Band. Good sound. Very, very good. The Monroe High School Jazz Band. Under the direction of Kevin Coughlin. Kevin, why don't you join us over here? And Maynard, we've asked Maynard to critique, but I think I can already tell from his left foot what he thinks of this sound.
Yeah, those guys were all swinging back there. That's great. I really enjoyed it very much. And we're not going to do a whole critique or anything like that. I think what you saw there was an example of some very good teaching, by the way, from these gentlemen. And that was quite obviously jumping with Symphony Sid. I enjoyed the fact you played something that is sort of from the swing bebop era. And if I was to make one critique, I bet that when Maynard Ferguson is not here, they move a little more, don't they? Yeah, no, I understood that because that would be the thing that I would teach them, to be a little looser and enjoy what you're doing. You know, the alto player sounded great over here, and also, you know, eventually you ought to just walk right up to a microphone, right? You know, just get right in there and do it and have fun. And there's no room for shyness or immodesty. Just be yourself and enjoy the music, because you guys are well on the way, and it's going to become more fun all the time. That's really what this music is. It's a joyful thing.
Great
Just
sound.
enjoy yourself. It sounds great.
Kevin, I know part of the reason that the Monroe High Jazz Band has been able to sound this great and do so well is the Artist in Residence program. Right. When we turn our cameras on the piano and the bass over there, and you can tell us about some of the assistance that has helped put this together.
Okay. Through the Artist in Residence program, and the title of the program is called Project Unique, we at Monroe High School have been very fortunate to have the opportunity to work with George Banks and one member of his quartet, Cliff Barnes. And both these gentlemen have been a terrific help to us. Especially, I'd also like to thank Karen Reeder, who's the head of Artist in Residence, for giving us the opportunity to have George and work with us during a portion of the school year. It's been a lot of fun with him.
Well, it is a good sound. We're going to hear from them a little bit later on as well. When we return, we're going to take some phone calls, open up our phone lines, and talk to some people in our audience as well. 334-0990, our public line number. We'll be right back to talk about jazz.
We are back now with jazz great Maynard Ferguson, the jazz man. We're going to take telephone calls in 1 minute, but I just want to say you look so happy, like you're enjoying life, enjoying what you're doing. Even now, you've been in this business a long time. Are you having fun?
Sure I am. I'm
Hold it right
having
up there.
fun doing this show right now. Oh, yeah, okay, we'll talk into that. I'm eared up and microphoned up, and we're
Yeah.
straight now.
Okay, let's go to our first phone call. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. How long have you been performing jazz?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
How many years have you been performing jazz?
How long you've been in jazz? How long have you been performing?
Oh, how long I've been performing? Well, I'm 54 years of age now, and I started performing when I was age 10. And I've been a professional since I was 13 years of age.
Okay, speaking of performing, when you started performing back in 53, was it? When you first started?
No, long before
No,
that.
that was when you had your own band, is that it?
Yeah, I had my own band when I was 16 years of age.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you started, there were no female players, musicians. Now, we have some today in our high school band here, but that was unusual back then, wasn't it?
Very much so, and it's just now coming into where more and more the ladies are really getting into instrumental music. We've always had the great singers
Right.
and all that, but in the old days they even had two band leaders of all male bands, Ina Ray Hutton for one, and the other was Blanche Calloway. I believe that was Cab Calloway's sister, and she was a band leader for a long time, and very successful too.
Okay, Don Elhart is in the audience and has a question.
Okay, your question for Maynard Ferguson.
Yes. To start off, I do have a rather extensive collection of your work, starting from when you were playing with Stan Kenton's band. And I've listened to the big band work that you've done, and also the work in the small groups, the quartets and quintets. As a jazz musician, which do you prefer to work in?
Okay, in preference, I really don't have one. the way I have designed most of my big band charts, you'll find out that there are many, many minutes within it when we are a quartet. So having a big band that can also give you something like the Ellington approach, where there is a lot of solo space given to not just myself, but to all the creative guys on the band. And I think that that way we get the best of both worlds, because it is nice to play just with the rhythm section alone and be an improviser and a jazz player, and also to get that heavy orchestral almost sound when you want it. So it gives you a much more of a diverse thing to have a big band. I really enjoy having the big band very much, but I also enjoy playing as a quartet player.
Thank you very much for your question. We have someone else on the phone line right now, and say good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Don and Wanda. I'd ask Maynard Ferguson, how would a local musician approach the record companies as far as, either gigging or either playing locally around the town? Like Rochester is not a very good, I can't say music city, but it's very conservative as far as a local musician getting into I'm talking about the bigger record companies. You know what I mean? Because
Fine. I think I can hear better without this. Yeah. Okay. I know what the question is. When we talk about major record companies, we have to realize that just as the economy in general in this country is going through quite hard times,
right.
That the record industry is probably at its lowest ebb that it's been in many, many years now, and whereas it shows a little recovery, this is a very difficult time for new artists. And it's very unfortunate, but you find them letting artists go more than you find them signing new artists. I don't mean that there's none at all being signed, but it's just that the record industry is having its problems with the advent of anything from the audio video thing to the tape problem that we have now, where
But
people.
should a potential musician send a tape, send a cassette, send a letter? How do you do it?
Oh yeah, I would say we just like when you audition on my band, for instance. I don't like in-person auditions because usually young people are nervous, and that old thing of, okay, kid, you got 5 minutes to impress me, is really not an indication of their talents. I would rather hear them in a situation they're comfortable, send a cassette to, like, you would send it to MF Music Incorporated in Ojai, and that's where my management people would then have a knowledge of your playing as you play in a very comfortable situation.
Okay, thank you. Don Elhart?
Okay, we're back down in the audience now. Another question.
Mr. Ferguson, you spend a lot of time doing clinics all over the country. How do you find life on the road?
Well, I find life on the road just great. There's a lot of traveling involved, and I don't mind traveling as much as some musicians do. And I have a very congenial group of musicians with me. And the music education thing and the clinics and the teaching of young people is something that I really enjoy. And my favorite people are guys like these that are band directors and music educators, and all three of these gentlemen here. I admire them greatly because one thing that's happened in this country has been the up-leveling of music education has been tremendous in the last 15 years. And when I talk about my multi-directional attitudes towards music and fusion, I find that that's the way they're being taught now in the schools, which is nice. In other words, the teacher is not saying, this is what I like, so this is the only thing you should like. Instead of that, we're teaching them a respect for the music of the past and letting them get on with doing their own thing, and just having them know their instruments and then be creative and be yourself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another caller on the line. We want to get to one last phone call, if we could. Go right ahead. You're on the air.
Hello? Hello? I'd just like to say that I think, Mr. Ferguson, you're really great and all, and I have all your records, but my comment is toward the audience, and I'd like to say that you're all great, and I think Monroe High School is doing a great job, but did you know you had a little girl in the front row, you know, the one who had the solo? I think that she deserves a hand, because I think she's pretty good, and I'd like to know if you think she has any kind of future in the music field.
Okay, did you hear that?
I didn't hear
So we
it.
better get her name so we can pass that along. What is your name?
Jamie Ring.
Hey, okay.
Okay, then. Listen, I know you're on the road. You're headed north? Where are you going?
That's right. We have a concert in Erie, Pennsylvania tonight, and we have a bus waiting for us, and off we go. You know, and it's a great life, and I want to thank you very much for having me on the show. I want to thank everybody in the band very much for playing for me, as well as all the people here, and it's been wonderful meeting all of you. Thank you very much.
Listen, thank you. It is indeed a pleasure and honor for Don and myself to be able to meet such a jazz great like yourself. Maynard Ferguson, everybody,
Thank
the
you very
jazz
much.
man.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
We thank you all for being with us. Most of the audience has stayed around. We lost a few. I think people are starting to do a little shopping before they don't know that another musical number is awaiting them
They're
here.
going to lose out. Coming up Monday,
Monday, we're going to be on location for part of the show downtown. In fact, I've heard more talk on this on the radio. The big bathtub race is coming up. A lot of local personalities will be racing down Main Street in bathtubs for the I Love Downtown celebration.
and I understand a very important person will be here. Johnny Cash is going to be here.
Right.
Also Susan Horowitz to talk about teenage marriages and Cooking Monday.
So that's Monday on Morning Break. Right now, we rejoin the Monroe High School Jazz Band for a closing number. Thank you for being
Have a
with
nice
us.
weekend.